Close your eyes, imagine a nightmare. Now imagine someone painting it. In the 18th century, there was an artist who didn't paint beauty. He didn't paint heroes. He painted fear. His paintings don't comfort you. They disturb you because they don't look at your eyes. They look into your mind. Today, we explore one of the most unsettling figures in art history. Not just a painter, but a translator of nightmares. His name, Henry Fuseli. Fact 1. Henry Fuseli was never meant to become an artist. His original path was religion and theology. Born into a family connected to the church, Fuseli received a formal theological education in his youth. At the time, his future seemed clear, a life of faith, order, and discipline. But that path felt restrictive to him. Fuseli was deeply fascinated by themes found in religious texts: sin, punishment, evil, and human fear. He eventually realized that words were not enough. He wanted to express these ideas through images, so he abandoned the path of priesthood and turned to art, where he began exploring the dark side of the human subconscious. That decision shaped everything he would later create. Fact 2. Henry Fuseli created a true turning point in art history with his 1781 painting, The Nightmare. When the artwork was first exhibited, viewers were not simply surprised, they were deeply disturbed. At the time, art was expected to celebrate beauty, balance, and idealized human bodies. Fuseli did the opposite. He painted the feeling of pressure during sleep, the sensation of being unable to move, and the terror that comes from the subconscious. The dark creature sitting on the woman's chest and the horse's head emerging from the shadows had no clear mythological or religious explanation. That was precisely what made the painting so unsettling. People stood before it asking themselves, is this a demon? Is this sin? Or is this something inside my own mind? With The Nightmare, Fuseli revealed something radical. Fear is not always external. Sometimes it lives within us. That is why the painting is considered the first true psychological horror artwork in history, and why it continues to disturb viewers centuries later. Fact 3. Henry Fuseli frightened his contemporaries not only with his paintings, but with the rules he broke. In the 18th century, art was expected to educate, to promote beauty, morality, and calm order. Fuseli rejected that mission. He used art to disturb. His paintings lacked religious comfort or classical balance. Instead, they showed tense bodies, compressed spaces, and a sense of fear without clear explanation. What disturbed people most was this: Fuseli did not blame fear on demons, myths, or external evil. He suggested that fear is born inside the human mind. This idea unsettled both the church and academic institutions because it raised an uncomfortable question. What if the danger is not outside us, but within us? That is why Fuseli was seen as dangerous. He did not hide fear, he exposed it. Fact 4. Fuseli and Shakespeare. When fear moved from literature to painting for Henry Fuseli, the greatest influence did not come from painters. It came from literature. And above all, one writer shaped his imagination more than any other: William Shakespeare. Fuseli did not approach Shakespeare as a storyteller. He approached him as a psychologist of the human mind. What fascinated Fuseli was not plot or dialogue, but the invisible forces beneath them: fear, guilt, madness, desire, hesitation, and moral collapse. In Shakespeare's plays, Fuseli found everything he wanted to paint. Macbeth showed him how guilt can rot the mind from within. Hamlet revealed how doubt can paralyze action. King Lear exposed how power can destroy reason itself. But Fuseli did something radical. He did not paint Shakespeare's scenes as theatrical performances. He removed the stage. He removed the audience. Instead, he painted these moments as if they were happening inside the human psyche. His figures twist unnaturally. Their muscles tighten. Their bodies appear strained, compressed, almost trapped. This was deliberate. Fuseli believed the body was a map of the mind. If the mind was disturbed, the body should reflect that disturbance. Beauty was irrelevant to him. What mattered was psychological intensity. In Fuseli's Shakespeare-inspired works, we are not watching characters act. We are witnessing mental breakdowns made visible. This approach was revolutionary. Long before psychology became a science, Fuseli treated Shakespeare's characters as case studies of fear, obsession, and inner collapse. That is why art historians often describe Fuseli as a painter who thought like a psychologist and read literature like a philosopher. Through Shakespeare, Fuseli transformed fear from words on a page into images that still disturb us today. Fact 5. Fuseli and the female figure. Fear, power, and the center of the subconscious. In the work of Henry Fuseli, women were never painted simply as objects of beauty. They were the core of psychological tension. In 18th century European art, female figures were usually calm, passive, idealized, and morally reassuring. Fuseli deliberately broke that tradition. His women are often asleep, yet exposed to danger, physically passive, yet emotionally dominant, vulnerable in body, yet powerful in meaning. The most striking example is The Nightmare. The woman in the painting is not a villain, not a demon, and not a symbol of moral failure. She is something far more unsettling. She is the gateway to the subconscious. Fuseli understood the female figure as a space where fear, desire, and vulnerability intersect. For him, the female body was not romantic. It was psychologically sensitive. This disturbed contemporary audiences. Many critics accused Fuseli of being immoral, obsessive, or unhealthy in his imagination. But what truly frightened them was the implication behind his work. Fuseli suggested that fear does not always come from external monsters. It emerges from within, from suppressed thoughts, dreams, and desires. In his paintings, women are not simply victims of horror. They are where horror begins. That idea challenged social, religious, and artistic norms of the 18th century, and that is precisely why Fuseli's work felt dangerous. Fact 6. Fuseli and anatomy. Why are the bodies so tense? English. 1 minute. One of the most striking aspects of Henry Fuseli's work is the intense tension of the human body. His figures twist unnaturally. Muscles appear overstrained. Postures feel uncomfortable, almost painful. This was not a technical mistake. It was a conscious artistic decision. Fuseli had a deep knowledge of classical anatomy. He studied ancient sculptures, Renaissance masters, and the mathematical proportions of the human body. But instead of using anatomy to create harmony, he used it to express psychological pressure. For Fuseli, the body was not merely a physical form, it was a map of the mind. If the mind was disturbed, the body had to reflect that disturbance. Fear, guilt, desire, and hesitation were meant to appear as tension in muscles and distorted poses. That is why his figures rarely look relaxed, appear compressed or strained, seem unable to find rest. These bodies are not calm because the minds inside them are not calm. To audiences of the 18th century, this was deeply unsettling. Classical art promised balance and beauty. Fuseli offered inner conflict and anxiety instead. In doing so, he transformed anatomy into psychology. He did not paint bodies to be admired. He painted bodies to be felt. Fact 7. Fuseli and his critics. Henry Fuseli was frequently criticized by the art establishment of his time. His paintings were described as disturbing, excessively dark, and even immoral. Academic critics argued that his work did not elevate beauty or harmony, but instead created discomfort and anxiety. Fuseli accepted this criticism without retreating. He believed art should not only please the eye, but challenge the mind. That refusal to conform is precisely why his work endured. Fact 8. Fuseli's influence today. Henry Fuseli feels more relevant today because he was one of the first artists to turn fear into a psychological subject. Modern horror, psychological art, and dark aesthetics follow the path he opened. Fuseli showed that the greatest fear lives inside the human mind. Fact 9. Why is Fuseli remembered? Henry Fuseli is remembered because he used art not to comfort, but to disturb. He did not create beauty, he created questions. And those questions remain unanswered, even centuries later. Fact 10. Fuseli's true legacy. Henry Fuseli did not paint monsters to scare people. He painted the human mind when it loses control. His art revealed fear without blood, violence, or spectacle. Instead, it exposed anxiety, desire, guilt, and inner collapse. Fuseli proved that horror does not need demons to exist. It only needs thought, memory, and imagination. That is why his paintings still feel modern today. They remind us that the darkest place has always been the mind itself.